Whenever I tell people about my meditation practice and how it has saved my sanity and probably my life and helped me cope with caregiving and trauma and grief and just the busyness of the fast-paced modern world, I usually hear a couple of things, which is, oh, I've been wanting to try that, but I don't really know where to get started, or I tried that a few times and the tapes in my head were still really noisy, and so it was very uncomfortable and I quit. And so I want to break down what I wish someone had told me when I got started. I have over 15,000 hours of meditation under my belt now. I lived alone during the pandemic. I was thoroughly freaked out. I was very depressed. I was very lonely and isolated, and I was going through a major transformation and really spiritual awakening that I just spent a lot of time on the mat meditating. So the first thing is, for a lot of us, we have a noisy, busy mind up here. Whether it's just the tapes and rumination, or the jingle we heard from this morning's commercial, or a random song, earworm, it's just very noisy up there. And so for some of us, that's not going to go away. Very occasionally, I might get little snippets of silence up here, but for the most part, once you engage in the practice, you really get what some of us refer to as a back row seat to your thoughts. So they're still going, but I picture myself like in the last row of a theater, and I can just see all of it going on. And the more you practice, you start seeing the patterns of your thoughts. So if you have been through losses and trauma, abuse, addiction, all kinds of things that humans go through, right? Then you might start to notice, oh, I'm really hard on myself about this, or I'm really judgmental about that, or I really worry about this thing all the time. And it just gives you some insight into the noise up there. So the goal really is not to quiet the mind, it's to feel safe in your body, give your body and mind a break. The saying is, everybody should meditate for 20 minutes a day, unless you're too busy, in which case you should meditate for an hour. Meaning, really, the busier you are, the more you need to give yourself time to restore and recharge. And if you are someone who, if you're juggling parenting and job and caregiving, hi Tupelo, there's my kitty in the window, and creative projects and your own health and all the things that a lot of us are juggling, then actually it might seem counterintuitive that you don't feel like you have time to take a break. But actually, if you take 20 minutes a day, and you work up to that, and I'm gonna get to that, but you work up to 20 minutes a day, actually helps you be more present with everything you're doing. So when you're in parenting, employer or employee, whatever mode, you can focus more on the project that you're actually focusing on at hand, which can be better for your family, your relationships, your money, your career, everything. I really love the RAIN practice by Dr. Tara Brach. She did not invent it, but she has a bunch of, it's RAIN, which stands for Recognize, Allow, Investigate, Nurture. And basically, if I'm starting to feel really overwhelmed and dysregulated, which oftentimes looks like irritability and snappiness and confusion and just, I don't know what to do next, then I'm like, okay, what I want to do is go get a coffee, go drive my car. I want to go do something with all this like built up, pent up, frenetic energy. But what I really have learned is that I need to pause and I need to sit down and do my RAIN practice. And so I recently found out that I am neurodivergent, and so I process sensory input. Neurodivergent is an umbrella term for ADHD, autism, OCD, basically our culture has defined a typical brain, a neurotypical brain, as basically a brain that can function more easily in the culture that we have built. So the 9 to 5, you go in, whereas a lot of us who are more creative, and sensitive to everything, right? Light, sound, touch, texture, yeah, noise, everything. Neurodivergent is like I'm constantly taking in a lot of sensory input that a neurotypical person is not struggling with. And so for me, I love to get on my yoga mat with an eye mask and my noise canceling headphones with a blanket, and I've got a pillow under my knees, and it's like my little neurodivergent nesting time of the day. And I'll put on Tara Brach, B-R-A-C-H, Tara Brach's rain practice. And so she'll guide you through it, and it's like, okay, I recognize that I feel angry. I'm feeling really angry at someone. Okay, I recognize that. Okay, I allow that I feel angry. I don't have to accept it. It doesn't mean that I like it. It just means that I allow that anger is in my body right now. Anger is here, it is present, and I allow that. Then I investigate, where do I feel that in my body? Is my gut clenched? Is my heart space tight? Is my throat tight? Am I clenching my jaw? Are my trap muscles, what's tight? Am I sweating? Am I breathing shallow? Are my hands clammy? I'm investigating, where do I feel that feeling and that emotion in my body? And then for me, it's all of those things. It's a full body somatic experience. And so I'm going to send nurturing love to those areas in the body. And the thing is, when I first got started with this kind of stuff, I used to hate hearing things like send loving energy to your tension. And I would be like, what does that mean? What does it mean open my heart? What does it mean send loving energy to a place in my body? And so it is a practice, and it's okay to get annoyed and frustrated and confused. You just keep practicing it. And eventually you do get to a place of like, oh, I can breathe into my gut. I can breathe into my traps. I can release the jaw and soften the tongue. So you're sending this nurturing. So recognize, allow, investigate, nurture. And then after the rain, it's just kind of lying there and allowing yourself to kind of process what you've just gone through, because for a lot of times it's a very emotional experience, particularly with things like anger. One of my favorite quotes is, I sat with my anger long enough until she told me her real name was grief, which I believe that's attributed to C.S. Lewis. And after my husband died, the rage, I didn't even know that I was capable of being so angry, or how much anger I had been carrying from childhood that had been unprocessed, unwitnessed, unvalidated, invalidated. And so I didn't like it, the other people around me didn't like it, and it turns out that pretty much anytime I'm really angry about something, and there are still many things surrounding the past 8 years of my life since my husband's death, that the anger creeps up. And then I remind myself, oh, I really am just very hurt by that. And in our culture, it's actually easier. Like, anger's not easy. Hi, Tupelo. But it's easier than grief. I think it's oftentimes easier to say, you did this to me, you hurt me, you betrayed me, rather than saying, I am so heartbroken that your behavior caused me this suffering. I am so confused, and I feel so betrayed, and I feel so triggered, probably from childhood stuff, that what Eckhart Tolle said, when we create a story of like, they betrayed me, they did me wrong, they hurt me, then it's very much this kind of egoic story that keeps us trapped in anger. Whereas if you can flip it to, their unconscious behavior caused me suffering. Or for me, sometimes it's the ways that their grief manifested caused me suffering. And then I can open up a little bit of more space in my heart to have compassion. I think I'll wrap it up to say, the moment that I knew meditation was working and that it was something I needed to do for the rest of my life, I was in Atlanta, Georgia, and I parked on a side street parking, and this guy got out of the car in front of me. He had just parked, and I could hear him grumbling, and he was visibly angry, And I said, hey, are you okay? Did I take your spot? And he kept grumbling, and I started to walk away. And then he starts yelling at me. He's like, you took my effing spot, and you always, my parking. And he was just going off. And I had been meditating consistently at that point. And I remember feeling this calm groundedness of, in my mind, oh, this has nothing to do with me. Whatever's going on there has nothing to do with me. And so I said, hey, it's no big deal. I can just move my car. It's really no big deal. And he's grumbling and going off. And so I moved my car and I went inside, and 2 minutes later, I hear a knock on the door, and I open the door, and he looks like a dog with his tail between his legs, and his eyes are really soft and apologetic. And he says, hey, my wife and I are about to have a baby, and I am so stressed out, and I just completely took that out on you, and I'm really sorry. And I was like, hey, thank you. And how many times in our lives, these days especially, I don't need to tell you about the anger or violence that's going on in our country right now. How many times has someone gotten angry at you, been mean to you in a grocery store checkout line, in traffic, whatever, and then our automatic response, sort of as I think a protective measure, is to fight back. But if we can sometimes stay grounded and meet it with compassion, then the opportunity for human connection is vast. And it's that kind of butterfly effect, I think, that's going to heal our world. And I'm very optimistic about the conscious evolution, the evolution of consciousness. That I think things seem really scary in a lot of ways, and they are. But I think a lot of people are waking up, and they really want a world of love and peace. Thank you for listening.